Good afternoon. My name is Ileana Soto. I'm a corporate immigration attorney here in Corporate Division by Union Law Group, and you can find me at the San Isidro, California office. Here at Union Law Group, we are exclusively dedicated to immigration procedures, family, and work petitions, and we have offices in Tijuana and San Diego. We invite you to follow us on all our Facebook, Instagram platforms. We are like Union Lawyers, and to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Today I want to give you valuable information for those students who come from your respective countries with a student visa and who would like to stay and work for a company here in the United States. So today we'll go over some of the options that are available to you and see if there are any questions. If there are, we'll try and get to them. If not, you can leave a comment in the comment section below and we can get back to you. So a lot of the common questions that I get for these things are, if I have a student visa, how can I obtain a work visa to legally work in the United States? So essentially what happens is you have two options. The first option is directly through your school, is that once you are close to graduating, usually it's about within that year leading up to your graduation, you can apply for either OPT work authorization or CPT work authorization. So what this means is that OPT stands for Occupational Practical Training, and essentially what that means is that you're requesting to get work authorization to work based on what your degree or what you are graduating under. With this employment authorization, you can work for any company within your area, and that'll usually be valid for a year after you graduate. So once you're approved for that authorization, you'll have it for about a year and you can work for a company of your choosing. Once your OPT is over, say you have that year, and say that the company is willing to give you more time, or is really liking your work and they would like to give you a little bit more of a permanent position. There are other options depending on what country you're originally from. One of the options for you would be an H-1B. That one is pretty open to any country availability. The H-1B visa is a visa for specialty occupations, which essentially means primarily the occupations that require a bachelor's degree or more, and that require some kind of specialized training. So I believe I've spoken about this before in previous Facebook Lives. And essentially, these jobs can be anything from architecture, business, law, teaching, anything, like I said, that requires a bachelor's degree or more. The H-1B is based on kind of a type of lottery. You would apply for initial applications between March. If you're chosen, you have a certain amount of time to submit your application. And if you're approved, you get to start working October 1st of that year. And that's very generalized. Obviously, there's more information that goes to that. We do have videos that talk a little bit more thoroughly about H-1B, and I invite you to look at those as well. But that's definitely an option that you can try after your visa expires. And your employment authorization is almost up, that also. Another option for those of you who are from Mexico or Canada is the TN availability. The TN visa usually is for specific job professions. There is a list of professions that are valid for that. And like I said, only for Mexico and Canada because it's based on the NAFTA trade agreement. And so what this allows you to do is work under that profession that's qualified under the list. And usually the period of stay for that visa is anywhere between 1 to 3 years, and it can be renewed. However, while there's no definite limitation to the TN of how many times you can renew the visa, there are different things that you have to take into consideration depending how many times you've renewed your visa. So just keep that in mind. I've also spoken about TNs in a more specific way in other lives and also on our YouTube page. So if you'd like more information, you can go ahead and look at those videos as well. So those are the two main options for students, especially if you'd like to change your status pretty much from one to the other right away with no gap in between. Those are probably the quickest ways you can do them. Again, just make sure that you do meet the requirements. So I would definitely consult an attorney and work with your employer, because they're going to be a big part of those processes. Another question that I get often is it advisable to do a process like this even with a valid student visa? And honestly, it's usually something that you would do after. There is an option that while you're still on your student visa, you can apply for a specific work authorization, but that is on a limited basis, and it would be through your school. And it's more or less, in a sense, kind of like a work study or something of the like, but your respective universities would have more information on that. So it's definitely a good idea to ask your international office so that they can give you more information about the possibility of working with a valid, while still on a valid student visa. Other than that, it's definitely better to wait until you're about to graduate, because the options are more extensive, and you have a little bit more of a wiggle room than if you were still with a valid visa. On a more permanent basis, there's definitely options that can open up to you. It's definitely a lot better if you have differing levels of experience. So for example, if you start off with your employment authorization and then eventually work your way to a TN or an H-1B, it's possible that maybe your employer decides that they'd like to help you with something a little bit more permanent. That would be something that you would look into, what's called an employment-based petition, and that's actually for your permanent residency, meaning that you'd be able to live here in the United States on a more permanent basis. But that is definitely more of a long-term solution, and it's something that I would definitely advise speaking to your employer about, basically from start, just to kind of have that testing the waters, see if it's a possibility, get the information needed, because the employer, like I said, is definitely going to be a big part of that process. And so it's necessary to have the employer on board to make sure that the process works as seamlessly as possible. What we can do here at our firm is definitely set up consults to kind of see what your options are. I always like to recommend that if you are going to have a consult with an offer of employment already kind of in place, is to have a representative of the employer with you during the consult, because things get lost in translation, and it's easier to have them with you during the consult. So if they have questions, they can ask. If you have questions, you can ask, and everyone's on the same page before a decision is made. So that's definitely a recommendation that I make, is that the employer be with you, or at least a representative of the company, who's basically maybe going to be the point of contact if you do decide to move forward with this kind of visa. So that's one thing. Another thing is definitely have your documentation in order. And this is just more generally like, for example, your educational documents, copies of your degrees, your transcripts, your CV if you have one already, if you've already been working on it. Those of you with master's degrees, if you've been working for a while before getting your master's degrees, if you have experience in your country, or if you've been working here under a valid visa and you went back to school and now you're ready to work again, it's definitely important to have that information with you at that time, because it'll help the attorney who's doing the consult give you a more specific outlook of what your options are. And lastly, definitely if you are on a student visa and you're waiting for this to kind of come to fruition, I would definitely have your student visa paperwork and see that is in order, because that's something that might be needed in the process. So just make sure you have that as well. And obviously with every application, or depending the type of visa that you're going to be eligible for, there will be a more detailed list of documents that you're going to need, and that will come as time moves on. If you've already kind of started the process, those will be more detailed on a case-by-case basis, but this is more just in general what you'd likely will need for these kinds of consults, and this kind of looking to the future after you're ready to start working after being on a student visa for a while. So I hope this information has been useful for you. If you have any questions about this kind of possibility or any other immigration procedure that you might be thinking about, here at Corporate Division by Union Law Group, we are at your service. You can either call us at our office at 619-797-8180 or write to us at our Facebook platform in the comments or via messaging, or write to our email. That's hello@unionlawgroup.com. So for today, that's everything. Again, I'm attorney Ileana Soto. I'm an associate at the Corporate Division by Union Law Group. And until the next time.